It is incredibly strange when you really stop and think about how we treat our bodies today. I mean, we are just totally obsessed with tracking.
Oh, absolutely. Everything is data now.
Right, like you probably have a device on your wrist right now counting your steps or monitoring your resting heart rate. Maybe it's even, analyzing your sleep cycle.
Yeah, or your blood oxygen, all of it.
Exactly. And we proactively schedule these eye exams. We go to the dentist twice a year for cleanings. We routinely check our blood pressure. But there is this one crucial sense that we completely ignore until something goes catastrophically wrong.
It's true. We really do.
We treat our hearing like a check engine light on a car. Like we only pay attention when it is already flashing red and the engine is literally sputtering.
Yeah, it is the classic reactive approach to health, right? I mean, we just wait for the silence or the persistent ringing to creep in before we finally decide to take any action.
Right, which is wild.
It is. And by then, the interventions are usually about managing a deficit, rather than preserving a function that you still have.
Which honestly brings us to the mission of our deep dive today. We've gathered some truly fascinating research focusing on a specific supplement called EAOXN.
Yes, a very interesting formulation.
But more importantly, the source material documents this massive paradigm shift happening right now in how we view auditory health. We are exploring why the conversation is suddenly moving away from reactive treatments and toward proactive wellness, and how you can protect your hearing long before any actual problems arise.
And this shift is so incredibly timely. I mean, when you look at the demographic data and just the basic reality of modern life, people are living longer.
Definitely.
But more importantly, they expect to maintain an active, fully engaged lifestyle well into those later years. So preserving hearing function is no longer just about avoiding a hearing aid.
Right.
It has become a massive priority for modern adults because it is tied directly to communication, to personal confidence, and ultimately to your independence.
Totally. And to really understand why we need this proactive wellness approach, I feel like we first have to confront the environment we are living in.
Oh, the modern environment is brutal on the ears.
It really is, because the ears of someone living today are dealing with a vastly different landscape than someone living, 50 or 100 years ago.
Completely different.
The research we are looking at outlines some very specific modern noise problems. Like, we aren't just talking about the occasional loud concert anymore.
No, not at all.
We're talking earbuds, nonstop streaming audio, back-to-back video calls all day, relentless urban traffic, and workplace machinery. It's just everywhere.
Yeah, the baseline of noise has completely changed. Historically, human ears evolved to handle sudden, acute spikes in noise, right? Like a thunderclap or a falling tree, maybe an animal warning call.
Okay, yeah, like short bursts.
Exactly. We did not evolve for chronic, sustained volume. But today, we are literally piping sound directly into our ear canals for 8-10 hours a day.
Wait, okay, let me make sure I'm picturing this right. If I'm wearing noise-canceling headphones in an open office, I feel like I'm protecting my ears from the background chatter. But you're saying the sustained delivery of, the audio I'm listening to is actually the environmental pressure?
Exactly. It is about the duration of the mechanical force on the delicate structures of your inner ear. Inside your cochlea, you have these microscopic hair cells called stereocilia.
Okay, stereocilia.
Right, and their entire job is to ride the physical waves of sound and translate that mechanical energy into electrical signals for your brain.
Wow.
When they are subjected to constant, unrelenting sound waves, even at just a moderate volume, they become physically exhausted. They literally flatten out.
Oh, geez. That sounds bad.
It is. And unlike other cells in your body, human hair cells do not regenerate. Once they are severely damaged or die off, well, that pathway is just gone forever.
I was reading about that cellular damage in the source material and thinking about it like sun exposure. Like, we don't wait for a severe, blistering sunburn to finally put on sunscreen, right?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, we put it on before we go to the beach. Specifically because we know ultraviolet damage is cumulative. So if noise damage is also cumulative, why have we historically waited for actual hearing loss to finally protect our ears?
Well, it's because auditory damage is usually invisible, and it's painless. I mean, you feel the sunburn immediately. You don't feel the slow degradation of your high-frequency stereocilia over a decade.
Right, you don't wake up and think, uh-oh, my stereocilia are tired today.
Exactly. But what's fascinating here is that invisible nature is exactly why We are finally seeing this cultural shift toward preventive wellness.
Yeah.
People are starting to understand the cumulative math.
They're getting smart about it.
Yeah, they're asking, what can I do now instead of just waiting for a permanent deficit?
And the documentation mentions that simple, proactive changes are finally becoming mainstream. Things like intentionally lowering the volume levels on our devices and taking what they call noise breaks.
Right, basically giving those tiny hair cells time to physically recover and just stand back up, so to speak.
That makes total sense.
And this cultural shift is happening because people are realizing that hearing is fundamentally tied to how we navigate the world safely.
Mm.
It's your spatial awareness.
Oh, like hearing a car coming.
Yes, exactly. It's knowing there's a cyclist coming up behind you on your morning walk or pinpointing exactly where a siren is coming from when you're driving.
Okay, that spatial awareness definitely makes sense, but I want to pivot to something that genuinely surprised me in this research.
Okay, what was that?
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we usually think of our ears and our brain as totally separate pieces of hardware. Like, I always picture the ear as the microphone and the brain as the computer.
That is how most people view it, yeah.
But the literature we're diving into emphasizes this incredibly deep hearing-brain connection. It claims that auditory function is actually a pillar of overall mental clarity and cognitive longevity. How exactly does auditory function tie into overall mental clarity?
Well, it helps to completely discard that microphone and computer analogy. Because the ear might collect the sound waves, but you actually hear with your brain.
Wait, really? Hear with your brain?
Yes. When sound enters the ear, it's just mechanical energy being turned into raw electrical impulses. Your auditory cortex then has to decode those signals, turn them into language, filter out the background noise of the restaurant you're sitting in, and attach meaning and memory to those specific words.
This sounds exhausting.
It takes an immense amount of cognitive processing power.
So if your hearing starts to degrade, even just a tiny bit, your brain is suddenly receiving like a low-resolution file, so to speak.
That is a perfect way to describe it. If the signal coming from the ear is weak or muffled or missing certain frequencies, the brain has to scramble to fill in the blanks.
Oh, wow.
It literally has to borrow processing resources from other areas, like your working memory and your comprehension centers, just to figure out if the person across the table said bat or cat. We call this listening effort.
Listening effort. Man, that completely changes how I look at socializing. If you are constantly having to borrow processing power just to decode the words, you're not just tired from being around people. Your brain is literally fatigued from the sheer computational act of listening.
Yes, exactly. And researchers are exploring how this constant daily cognitive drain relates to long-term cognitive well-being. Because when communication becomes a massive computational struggle, what happens?
I mean, I guess you just stop wanting to talk to people.
Precisely. People tend to withdraw.
Mm.
They stop going to noisy restaurants. They
Mhm.
stop engaging in group conversations. And social isolation is one of the most significant known risk factors for cognitive decline.
That is terrifying.
It is. So as public awareness of this hearing-brain connection grows, people are realizing that supporting their ears is actually a frontline defense for their entire neurological processing system.
It totally reframes the whole concept of healthy aging. The data points out that we are starting to bundle auditory health right alongside vision and mobility and cardiovascular health. Like, it's a package deal.
It really is a package deal.
You cannot have true long-term vitality if you're letting one of your primary ways of interacting with the world slowly fade away and taking your cognitive bandwidth down with it.
And that realization is incredibly empowering. It takes hearing loss out of the category of just, inevitable decline and puts it squarely into the category of manageable wellness.
Which naturally leads us to the defense strategy. Because if my brain is literally starving for processing power just because of ambient noise and cellular damage, I can't just quit my job and move to a silent cabin in the woods.
As nice as that sounds.
Right. So what is the actual biological defense mechanism here? The research lays out everyday steps to build a long-term hearing wellness routine, but I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because when I read the list, I was super skeptical. If you just looked at this list without context, you'd think we were reading a guide on cardiovascular fitness or mental health.
Oh, I completely understand why you'd think that.
Well, the first one is obvious, right? Protection. Using earplugs at concerts, or using noise-reducing headphones to block out the train commute rather than just cranking your music up to drown it out. That mechanically protects the hair cells. I get that.
Sure, that's the physical barrier.
But then it lists prioritizing sleep, physical activity like walking, cycling, or swimming, Maintaining a nutrient-rich diet with leafy greens and colorful vegetables. And finally, managing daily stress with deep breathing and meditation.
It really does read like a generic whole-body wellness manifesto.
It really does. And my immediate thought was, that sounds like pseudoscience. How on earth does my lung capacity during deep breathing or eating a spinach salad or taking a walk actually help the mechanics of my eardrums?
This is where we have to dive into the microvascular system, because the body is an interconnected system. The inner ear, specifically the cochlea, is a highly energy-demanding organ, but it has a very vulnerable blood supply.
Okay, so it needs a lot of fuel.
Exactly. It relies heavily on a specialized network of microcapillaries called the stria vascularis. It needs a constant, unrelenting supply of oxygen and nutrients to function and to repair those hair cells we talked about earlier.
Okay.
And there is no backup blood supply to the inner ear.
Wow. Okay, so it is a highly localized circulation issue.
Exactly. Now consider chronic stress. When you are constantly stressed, your body is flooded with cortisol. And cortisol is a vasoconstrictor, meaning it literally narrows your blood vessels and drives up systemic inflammation.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. If you restrict blood flow to those tiny microcapillaries in the ear, you're basically starving the hair cells of oxygen. So when the literature recommends deep breathing and mindfulness, it isn't about clearing your chakras or anything like that.
Right, right.
It's a biological mechanism to lower cortisol, dilate your blood vessels, and keep those crucial auditory pathways open and oxygenated.
That is fascinating. The deep breathing is quite literally opening the biological pipes to the ear. And I imagine the diet recommendations like the leafy greens tie into that exact same cellular mechanism.
They do, specifically regarding oxidative stress. We talked earlier about how loud noise overworks the hair cells. Well, when a cell is forced to work too fast, it basically overheats. It throws off metabolic exhaust in the form of free radicals.
Okay, free radicals.
You can think of free radicals as cellular rust. They bounce around inside the inner ear, tearing through cell membranes and degrading the physical structure of the cochlea.
So the damage isn't just the physical bending of the hair cell from the sound wave, it's the chemical exhaust produced by the effort of trying to hear it.
Precisely. And this is where your spinach salad comes in. Leafy greens, colorful vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, they are packed with antioxidants.
Oh, so they fight the rust?
Yes. Antioxidants are molecules that specifically hunt down and neutralize those free radicals. They act as a chemical rust inhibitor. A nutrient-rich diet provides the exact biochemical tools your body needs to clean up that metabolic exhaust before it can cause permanent damage to your auditory processing centers.
Man, it really shifts the perspective. Taking care of your ears isn't just about what you put in them, like foam earplugs. It's about providing the entire vascular and nervous system with the raw materials needed for recovery.
And consistency in these holistic daily habits matters way more than perfection. You don't have to be a perfect meditator or an elite athlete. It is just about creating a biological environment through movement, sleep, and nutrition that has the inherent resilience to handle the noisy modern world.
So we have this foundation, we have the daily habits, the cardiovascular health, the antioxidant-rich foods, but the research also introduces a supplemental layer.
Yes, the nutritional support side.
Right. It notes that while daily habits form the bedrock of hearing health, there is a growing interest in nutritional tools engineered specifically to target these exact microvascular and neurological systems. Which brings us to the rise of hearing support supplements, and specifically the product mentioned in the documentation called ECHOXEN.
The wellness supplement space has expanded significantly, specifically because people are looking for targeted ways to optimize those exact biological pathways we just broke down.
Now, when I was digging into the documentation on ECHOXEN, I noticed it is a premium liquid hearing support formula. It generally relies on combinations of specific vitamins, minerals, plant extracts, and amino acids.
Correct.
And its formulation goals are to support healthy auditory function, hearing wellness pathways, mental clarity, balance, and just overall daily well-being.
And notice how those goals map perfectly onto the biological problems we just discussed.
Yeah.
The circulation, the cellular rust, the cognitive load. But the liquid format is an interesting choice. What's the practical advantage there?
The documentation points out that it's highly practical for anyone dealing with pill fatigue.
Oh, absolutely.
You know the feeling just staring at a handful of capsules every morning, swallowing them one by one? A liquid alternative is highly appealing just from a compliance standpoint alone. It's simple.
Much simpler.
So, what does this all mean for someone who wants to build this routine? We understand how spinach fights cellular rust. How does a targeted supplement containing amino acids and plant extracts actually do anything for the inner ear?
It really comes down to concentration and bioavailability. While whole foods provide a broad spectrum of nutrients, a targeted supplement is designed to deliver concentrated doses of specific compounds.
Okay, like a more direct dose.
Right. For instance, amino acids are the fundamental building blocks of proteins. If your body is trying to repair cellular damage in the cochlea after a loud concert, it needs specific amino acids to rebuild those structures. Similarly, certain plant extracts are heavily researched for their potent anti-inflammatory properties, specifically targeting vascular health to ensure that cell vascularis network stays robust.
Okay, but I want to push back on this a little bit because it is very easy to hear all this and think, great, I'll just take a dropper of this liquid supplement every morning and then I can go stand next to the speakers at a rock concert or blast my headphones all day.
Which would be a terrible idea, a truly terrible idea. If we look at how the experts position this, they are incredibly careful to frame supplements as a complement, not a cure. They are not a standalone replacement for sleep or ear protection.
All right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the literature outlines a very clear, comprehensive, three-pronged wellness strategy. And ECHOXEN and supplements like it are placed firmly in the third prong.
So walk me through how those three prongs actually fit together in a real routine.
Okay, think of your hearing health like building and maintaining a house in a harsh climate.
I like that analogy.
The first prong is your daily habits. This is pouring a solid concrete foundation, protecting your ears from excessive noise, staying physically active, prioritizing sleep, and managing stress.
The basics.
Right. If you don't have a foundation, the house is going to collapse no matter what else you do. You cannot supplement your way out of standing next to a jackhammer without ear protection.
Makes total sense. The foundation is absolutely non-negotiable.
The second prong is nutritional support. This is the framing and the drywall of the house. Eating a balanced diet, staying hydrated, maintaining a consistent nutrient intake from whole foods. You are giving your body the bulk raw materials it needs to build a resilient structure.
And then the third prong is the supplemental support.
Exactly. This is where products like ECHOXEN come in. Supplements are the specialized weatherproofing sealant you apply to the most vulnerable joints and windows of the house. They provide concentrated, targeted protection against the elements, which in this case is the oxidative stress and vascular constriction we talked about. They are an addition for adults seeking to be proactive, providing carefully selected ingredients to support those specific auditory and cognitive pathways. But you wouldn't apply weatherproofing sealant to a house that doesn't even have a foundation or walls.
That is a phenomenal way to look at it. It is one specialized supportive tool within a broader holistic strategy. You have to build the house first.
Precisely. It's about adding a layer of targeted biochemical support on top of a healthy physical foundation.
This has been such a revealing dive into the data. If we synthesize all of this for you listening, what it really comes down to is a total reimagining of what auditory health actually means. Modern hearing wellness is not about passively waiting for a doctor to give you a diagnosis when the cellular damage is already permanent and your brain is fatigued from the cognitive load.
Not anymore, no.
It is about protecting your independence, your social connections, and your overall mental clarity.
It is about taking ownership of your environment and the biological realities of your own body.
Right. It's intentionally lowering the volume on your earbuds. It is getting a good night's sleep to clear out metabolic waste. It is eating antioxidant-rich foods and doing deep breathing exercises to support your microvascular circulation.
All of those things, yes.
And it is utilizing targeted nutritional support, like ECHOXEN, to help clear out that cellular rust and keep those pathways functioning at their absolute best. It is choosing to act now, rather than waiting for the silence to creep in.
And fully recognizing that taking care of your ears is, quite literally, taking care of your brain.
To wrap this up, our deep dive brought up something early on that I really haven't been able to stop thinking about. Just the sheer, unrelenting volume of environmental noise we are exposed to compared to previous generations. We are constantly bathed in mechanical sound waves. So I want to leave you with a thought to mull over today.
A little observational homework for everyone.
Exactly. The source mentions that our modern lifestyle exposes us to more ambient sound than ever before. So the next time you walk through your city or your office, or even just sit in your own living room, take a moment to consciously tune in to the invisible soundscape around you.
Notice the hums and the pings.
Yeah, exactly. Notice the hum of the refrigerator, the distant rumble of traffic, the overlapping conversations down the hall, the constant notification pings from your devices. Ask yourself, how much of your daily mental fatigue, your brain fog, or your evening exhaustion might actually just be your brain and your ears working overtime to process a constantly noisy world. It really makes you reconsider ignoring that check engine light, doesn't it?